Question number 191. Employees at your company use their personal computers to access your organization's Google Cloud Console. You need to ensure that users can only access the Google Cloud Console from their corporate-issued devices and verify that they have a valid enterprise certificate. What should you do? A. Implement an access policy in Beyond Corp Enterprise to verify the device certificate. Create an access binding with the access policy just created. B. Implement a VPC firewall policy. Activate packet inspection and create an allow rule to validate and verify the device certificate. C. Implement an organization policy to verify the certificate from the access context. D. Implement an identity and access management (IAM) conditional policy to verify the device certificate. The correct answer is A. A. Implement an access policy in Beyond Corp Enterprise to verify the device certificate. Create an access binding with the access policy just created. Question number 192. Your organization is rolling out a new continuous integration and delivery (CI/CD) process to deploy infrastructure and applications in Google Cloud. Many teams will use their own instances of the CI/CD workflow. It will run on Google Kubernetes Engine, GKE. The CI/CD pipelines must be designed to securely access Google Cloud APIs. What should you do? A. 1. Create 2 service accounts, one for the infrastructure and one for the application deployment. 2. Use workload identities to let the pods run the 2 pipelines and authenticate with the service accounts. 3. Run the infrastructure and application pipelines in separate namespaces. B1. Create a dedicated service account for the CI/CD pipelines. 2. Run the deployment pipelines in a dedicated nodes pool in the GKE cluster. 3. Use the service account that you created as identity for the nodes in the pool to authenticate to the Google Cloud APIs. C1. Create individual service accounts for each deployment pipeline. 2. Add an identifier for the pipeline in the service account naming convention. 3. Ensure each pipeline runs on dedicated pods. 4. Use workload identity to map a deployment pipeline pod with a service account. D1. Create service accounts for each deployment pipeline. 2. Generate private keys for the service accounts. 3. Securely store the private keys as Kubernetes secrets accessible only by the pods that run the specific deploy pipeline. The correct answer is A. A. 1. Create 2 service accounts, one for the infrastructure and one for the application deployment. 2. Use workload identities to let the pods run the 2 pipelines and authenticate with the service accounts. 3. Run the infrastructure and application pipelines in separate namespaces. Question number 193. Your organization's customers must scan and upload the contract and their driver license into a web portal in cloud storage. You must remove all personally identifiable information, PII, from files that are older than 12 months. Also, you must archive the anonymized files for retention purposes. What should you do? A. Set a time to live, TTL, of 12 months for the files in the cloud storage bucket that removes PII and moves the files to the archive storage class. B. Create a cloud data loss prevention, DLP, inspection job that de-identifies PII in files created more than 12 months ago and archives them to another cloud storage bucket. Delete the original files. C. Configure the autoclass feature of the cloud storage bucket to de-identify PII. Archive the files that are older than 12 months. Delete the original files. D. Schedule a Cloud Key Management Service, KMS, rotation period of 12 months for the encryption keys of the cloud storage files containing PII to de-identify them. Delete the original keys. The correct answer is D. D. Schedule a Cloud Key Management Service, KMS, rotation period of 12 months for the encryption keys of the cloud storage files containing PII to de-identify them. Delete the original keys. Question number 194. You plan to synchronize identities to cloud identity from a third-party identity provider, IDP. You discovered that some employees used their corporate email address to set up consumer accounts to access Google services. You need to ensure that the organization has control over the configuration, security, and lifecycle of these consumer accounts. What should you do? Choose 2. A. Mandate that those corporate employees delete their unmanaged consumer accounts. B. Reconcile accounts that exist in cloud identity but not in the third-party IDP. C. Evict the unmanaged consumer accounts in the third-party IDP before you sync identities. D. Use Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS, to migrate the unmanaged consumer accounts' emails as user aliases. E. Use the transfer tool to invite those corporate employees to transfer their unmanaged consumer accounts to the corporate domain. The correct answer is B and E. B. Reconcile accounts that exist in cloud identity but not in the third-party IDP. E. Use the transfer tool to invite those corporate employees to transfer their unmanaged consumer accounts to the corporate domain. Question number 195. You are auditing all your Google Cloud resources in the production project. You want to identify all principals who can change firewall rules. What should you do? A. Use Policy Analyzer to query the permissions compute.firewalls.get or compute.firewalls.list. B. Use Firewall Insights to understand your firewall rules usage patterns. C. Reference the Security Health Analytics, Firewall Vulnerability Findings in the Security Command Center. D. Use Policy Analyzer to query the permissions compute.firewalls.create or compute.firewalls.update or compute.firewalls.delete. The correct answer is D. D. Use Policy Analyzer to query the permissions compute.firewalls.create or compute.firewalls.update or compute.firewalls.delete. Question number 196. Your organization previously stored files in cloud storage by using Google Managed Encryption Keys, GMEK, but has recently updated the internal policy to require Customer Managed Encryption Keys, CMEK. You need to re-encrypt the files quickly and efficiently with minimal cost. What should you do? A. Re-upload the files to the same cloud storage bucket specifying a key file by using SUDL. B. Encrypt the files locally and then use SUDL to upload the files to a new bucket. C. Copy the files to a new bucket with CMEK enabled in a secondary region. D. Change the encryption type on the bucket to CMEK and rewrite the objects. The correct answer is D. Change the encryption type on the bucket to CMEK and rewrite the objects. Question number 197. You run applications on Cloud Run. You already enabled container analysis for vulnerability scanning. However, you are concerned about the lack of control on the applications that are deployed. You must ensure that only trusted container images are deployed on Cloud Run. What should you do? Choose 2. A. Enable binary authorization on the existing Cloud Run service. B. Set the organization policy constraints/run. Allowed binary authorization policies to the list or allowed binary authorization policy names. C. Enable binary authorization on the existing Kubernetes cluster. D. Use Cloud Run breakglass to deploy an image that meets the binary authorization policy by default. E. Set the organization policy constraints/compute. Trusted image projects to the list of projects that contain the trusted container images. The correct answer is A and B. A. Enable binary authorization on the existing Cloud Run service. B. Set the organization policy constraints/run. Allowed binary authorization policies to the list or allowed binary authorization policy names. Question number 198. Your organization has on-premises hosts that need to access Google Cloud APIs. You must enforce private connectivity between these hosts, minimize costs, and optimize for operational efficiency. What should you do? A. Set up VPC peering between the hosts on-premises and the VPC through the Internet. B. Route all on-premises traffic to Google Cloud through an IPsec VPN tunnel to a VPC with private Google access enabled. C. Enforce a security policy that mandates all applications to encrypt data with a Cloud Key Management Service (KMS) key before you send it over the network. D. Route all on-premises traffic to Google Cloud through a dedicated or partner interconnect to a VPC with private Google access enabled. The correct answer is B. B. Route all on-premises traffic to Google Cloud through an IPsec VPN tunnel to a VPC with private Google access enabled. Question number 199. As part of your organization's Zero Trust strategy, you use Identity-Aware Proxy, IAP, to protect multiple applications. You need to ingest logs into a Security Information and Event Management (SIEM) system so that you are alerted to possible intrusions. Which logs should you analyze? A. Data Access Audit Logs. B. Policy Denied Audit Logs. C. Cloud Identity User Log Events. D. Admin Activity Audit Logs. The correct answer is A. Data Access Audit Logs. Question number 200. Your company must follow industry-specific regulations. Therefore, you need to enforce Customer-Managed Encryption Keys, CMEK, for all new cloud storage resources in the organization called org1. What command should you execute? A. Organization Policy, binding at, org1 policy type, allow policy value, all supported services. B. Organization Policy, constraints/GCP. Restrict non-CMEK services binding at, org1 policy type, deny policy value, storage.googleapis.com. C. Organization Policy, binding at, org1 policy type, deny policy value, storage.googleapis.com. D. Organization Policy, constraints/GCP. Restrict non-CMEK services binding at, org1 policy type, allow policy value, storage.googleapis.com. The correct answer is B. B. Organization Policy, constraints/GCP. Restrict non-CMEK services binding at, org1 policy type, deny policy value, storage.googleapis.com.